We are super duper excited to have Sohile here with us today. My name is Sarah Braunstein, and I am the current Assistant Director of Career Advising. I am beyond thrilled to have my former student, colleague, and friend Sohile Ali on the call today. My colleagues Jody and Julia are also on the call to monitor any questions you all might have. But first off, I'd like to introduce Ashlyn Zimmerman, Director of Annual Giving for the Luddy School, who is going to tell us a bit about how to engage with Luddy after graduation.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you so much again to the Career Services Office for putting such a wonderful endeavor together here today. Um, yes, so as Sarah mentioned, I work in the Office of Alumni Relations and Development here over in Miles Brand Hall. So not in beautiful Luddy Hall, just across the street here. And we'd also like to extend a huge thank you today to Sohile. Thank you so much for your time, for joining us today and bringing back your experiences to share with students. A huge part of what we work with alumni on doing is making these engagement opportunities so that you can share experiences in your time, talent, and treasure so that future generations can be able to benefit from the experiences that you've had. For the students on the call, we would love to hear from you after graduation. I know some of you might be getting ready to graduate here in the coming month. I will be happy to drop a link in the chat. There are multiple ways to still stay engaged with Luddy after graduation. And we are always welcoming to have you come and share your IU story, or even just be able to share, like what Sohail is doing today, your experiences with our current students. So, Sohail, thank you so much again. And thank you to Sarah for putting this together.
Yeah, and thank you again, Ashlyn. So I'm going to introduce him again. I am so very excited to introduce Sohail Ali. Graduating in 2020 with his bachelor's degree, Sohail earned a degree in Intelligent Systems Engineering. He went on to earn master's degrees in Intelligent Systems Engineering and Human Computer Interaction in 2022. Since then, Sohail has been working as a user experience designer here at Indiana University, as well as served as an adjunct lecturer for our Y395 career development course. Prior to his current role, Sohail was an associate instructor um, and part of the fabrication lab. He also was a production intern at The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, VP of Marketing of Union Board, and an art residential programs and services graduate supervisor. In addition to this, he has held internships as an IT support intern at Bloom Insurance Agency, an experienced design intern at IU Health, and a UX design intern at IU. I am so excited to have him here with us to share his wealth of experiences. We'll go ahead and start off with some basic introductory questions, and then please feel free to submit your questions for Sohail in the Q&A section, and we will address them as those come in. So Sohail, if you wouldn't mind going ahead and introducing yourself, tell us a bit about your background and how you got into your current role at IU.
Sure thing, Sarah. Thank you very much for that very kind and detailed deep dive introduction. Sometimes you hear things that even you forgot about yourself, so that's always a nice thing. But thank you again for having me today. I'm very excited to be here and speak to you all. And yeah, a little bit about me. So further than that, I'm a townie, love us or hate us, from Bloomington, born and raised. Had IU in my backyard my entire life and really had many older cousins that attended IU and kind of got to see kind of that experience through them as I grew up in town. And so when it came down to applying for college, I honestly literally only applied to IU. So my whole thing was like, for God knows why, if it were to not exist the next day, I'd be kind of out of luck. But luckily, it all worked out, and I was attending the Intelligent Systems Engineering major, as you mentioned. I was a part of the first class, the inaugural class for that program, because we were like, oh, IU's getting into engineering. That's cool. And, probably not upsetting to any other schools in the state. But we were the inaugural class. Like I said, we were the guinea pigs, as we like to joke, but it was really fun. We had small class sizes, really got to get nice, good instructor to student ratios, and really developed a nice relationship with our cohort, which a lot of us still maintain today. So from intelligent systems engineering as my background, as I was in my senior year, I was a minor in the media school in media and creative advertising, and I always had this interest in the creative side of technology. So I was trying to figure out kind of how I can blend those two. I didn't necessarily want to go into purely development. And then that's kind of when I was researching an intersection between creativity and technology. That's where I discovered the field of human computer interaction, or HCI. And that's kind of what led me to pursue that, in addition to my master's in ISE. And so I spent 2 years in that amazing program, that has a great reputation, and we're lucky to have an amazing alumni network from that program as well. And so I oftentimes connect with the current students. I know the HCI program is in a really good spot now with a new director recently, and yeah, so since graduating from there, interning with the team that I now work full time on, for almost 2 years now, I've been doing full time. So that's kind of how we got here.
Awesome. So kind of thinking backwards a little bit, when applying to your internships in your current full-time position, what were activities, classes, or projects that helped you to stand out?
Definitely. I'd say my internship experience, I mean, you mentioned a couple of them, but like there were technical experiences with, you know, uh, complex systems and teams, including, Bloom Insurance and IU Health for a summer. And, these were both remote internships, but I still got to, get to know my team and support them and get to know what the different roles we're doing, like analysts and the other experienced designers. And I think having those experiences, in addition to being, an associate instructor and an RA and having other student involvements, but actually having like the internships, of course, everyone knows is invaluable experience that you can always speak to when you're interviewing for actual, full-time positions, which I was doing, and I was able to bring up. But also, being in a program like the HCI Master's program at Luddy was also amazing because we had real projects we worked on with stakeholder companies like Salesforce and Best Buy, and these folks that we were able to get to know and like pitch, mock projects for, that then became portfolio pieces for me to talk about in interviews.
Awesome. And then thinking a little bit specifically about your time as an instructor, just because a lot of our students have that experience. Can you tell me how you market and describe that experience?
Yeah, for sure. Being an AI, I think I started maybe my sophomore year, like in undergrad, for various, the introductory engineering course, E101. It was nice to kind of be that mentor figure, especially having so many amazing tutors and mentors and Luddy camp counselors over my years coming up. It was nice to be able to be that person. And I think, when talking about it, what you're talking about essentially is that, you took this course, you learned the skills, you essentially made yourself known to the instructor, that you really appreciated the course and its material so much, in fact, that you'd like to now help usher it on to the next generation of students. So I think in a way, you're an assistant to the instructor, obviously, but you're assisting the students directly. You're holding office hours. So I think, I often tell students, it's like you are also instructing. You're instructing classrooms full of 30 plus students, through these concepts, these materials that you learned, and now you learned enough to feel comfortable to teach. But I think oftentimes people might downplay that. Like, don't downplay that experience. It's very valuable. And, ask the professor you're working with, how they feel about the work you're doing, and, how you can improve, obviously. But I think those are the kind of things that you want to highlight when talking about, being an AI, and in addition to, yeah, the actual course you're helping teach.
Awesome. And then thinking again about your job and your internship searches, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during those different phases of your life, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you asked this question, because I know, this is a pretty tough time right now. Everyone knows in the job market, a lot of layoffs, a lot of companies tightening up, and it's kind of, I feel for the current students, who are looking, applying actively. We have interns on our team, so we hear about this often. What I faced, 2 years ago, post pandemic, it was similar, but or mid pandemic, it was similar, but not, as severe. But I guess the kind of challenges, in addition to just like, the tough job market as everyone's facing today, is kind of getting over that. You reach out to so many people, you try to develop connections, these cold messages, these cold emails. It can kind of get discouraging, right? When you don't hear back from people, because then you're thinking, well, all that time I spent, drafting that message, doing my research, maybe it wasn't, worth it. But the hardest part is getting past that. And, I think I would encourage people, and I would tell myself, focus on the network you do have, go deep into those connections, have chats with people, just check-ins, nurture that active community you do have in your network, spend as much time, if not more, on that than trying to establish new ones. Because people will always, they'll tend to have more time and energy and consideration for people they know already, and kind of, oh, maybe they have a connection or two in common. Because it's always an uphill battle, right? Trying to cold network with people, which I'm not discouraging at all. It's also very valuable, but I think not enough people look inward to the network they do have and continue nurturing, because you never know. You never know who those folks know, right? And that a lot of times can lead to even more rich and deep connections that were maybe more nearby. So those are the kind of challenges. And you go through it, right? You apply, automatic rejection. You apply, you get the phone call, still rejection. I think every step of the way, of course, you have to persevere. But when you do get the chance to speak to somebody in that process, don't forget that that's time that they've invested in you. So that person, is taking time out of their day to get to know you. Value that person, establish a connection there, even if it ends there. Because you never know, that person will likely be in that position, or maybe a different position. They'll remember you. And I guess the lesson for me, yeah, was, valuing every person in that journey, every step of the way. Um, I think would also be beneficial. So those are the kind of things that I had to learn, and everyone has to go through it, right? They have to send all their hundreds of applications. But once you do kind of find your footing and get, up in the system, then you can kind of look back and say, okay, here's what really kind of helped me along the way.
That's really, really helpful. I absolutely love like focusing on the network that you do have. Going off that idea, can you tell me a little bit about how you still actively nurture your networks, or how you pulled on your networks when you were doing your searches?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know there's a lot of tools these days, and even on LinkedIn they have tools to easily, start up a quick video chat meeting. But I think, those are still great. The casual coffee chats, right, with folks. I'd say a lot of people are sending, 30 minutes. I would honestly offer 15 to 30 minutes, because I think even in that time, because people are so busy, that's half an hour of their time in a busy schedule. Offer 15. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised that people will say, oh, 15, I'd give this person 15 minutes. It might turn longer, but you're not asking for that much of a commitment. Just staying persistent. The first time someone gets an email, it's maybe not the first priority of their day. They have their tasks, they have their jobs, but they want to help. I tend to believe most people do want to help. It's just, when can they help? So you stay persistent, right? You catch them on the right time. Polite, persistent is kind of the pattern you can follow. And but if you're lucky enough to, live somewhere with people nearby, that maybe professors, instructors, colleagues, former classmates, get together with one another. I often will try to reach out to somebody for a lunch or a coffee, and, in person whenever possible, because I think that's always a nice, connection you can continue to build. And in this day and age, you can go a long time without seeing somebody in person. So I challenge folks to try and do that whenever they can, with people that, they know, of course, and maybe people they don't, but they're in the same town that they could meet up and get to know. So offer to buy that first coffee.
I absolutely love that. That's an awesome tip. Kind of again, still thinking about applications. Can you tell me a little bit about whether or not you used a portfolio in applying for any of your positions, and any tips that you have for creating a portfolio?
Yes, absolutely. The portfolio, especially in our field, design, user experience, it's critical, and it's part of your core documents, right? Resume, portfolio, cover letter, often, and your references and stuff as well. But yes, absolutely. Day and night, hacking away at the portfolio as many students are doing today. And as we always say, the portfolio, it's never finished. It's good enough to then send at any given moment. But I think for me, having those projects, as I mentioned, as a HCI student, having actual projects that we worked on to completion for actual stakeholders, featuring those on my portfolio was super valuable. And when it comes to the kind of advice that I was receiving was, everybody can have, really nice looking screens and wireframes. Everyone's a talented designer. It's never been easier to whip up a nice design today, right? But I think a lot of the times what people hiring you were looking for is not the how necessarily, but the why behind your design, right? So can you justify any given decision on your screen? Is there a reason behind that? Was there something in research maybe that led to that decision? So tell the story basically was kind of the advice that I got, and I tried my best to do because when it comes to interviewing for design roles, certainly oftentimes you are given maybe 30 minutes to an hour to present 1 to 2 projects from your portfolio, or a couple of projects that you're proud of that you've designed. And, through that, you want to kind of take them through it step by step. What was it? Why did you have to design this? What did you do? The tools you used, of course, are important, but I think a lot of the questions that I was receiving during interviews was, okay, I noticed that you have this layout here. Why did you go with a layout like that instead of something like this? And if the truth of it was, oh, I just thought it looked the nicest, or that's fine. But if you can always ask yourself why every step of the way, then you might have something more like, oh, well, actually, we tested with some users and they thought this was more of an intuitive design and it tested well. And so that's why we went with it. So I think portfolios have never looked better. I think add a splash of your own personality. I think everyone's doing today for sure. But, everyone's trying to, comparing their portfolios to everyone else. But if you think about it, someone only has maybe 5, 10 minutes to really like browse through it, if that. So, you just kind of want to answer the following questions, which is who am I? What have I done? What am I looking for? Who am I beyond, my job? Um, and then get to the work that I've done quickly. They can go through it, see if it's something they want to, further pursue in you. Um, so those are kind of the tips that I kind of like to share and still incorporate. I've honestly taken my portfolio offline because it's always a work in progress. You never want to have it out if it's not, something up to date. But yeah, I guess yeah. So the why, you know, personality to it. Don't worry about comparing to other people's. Um, Imagine yourself walking through it in an interview because that's essentially what it'll come down to. You might be able to put like more of a presentation, like a slide deck together, but make sure you can tell the entire project story, as if you were presenting it.
Yeah, that's really amazing advice. I was writing things down. Like that's all super duper helpful. I guess another question I have spinning off of that is, do you have any work in your portfolio or where you collaborated with coworkers, and how do you kind of show how much work you did on that specific project and portray that accurately?
Right. Yes. Yes. That's a great question. The infamous group projects, right? But yeah, I mean, oftentimes these projects that we worked on were group projects, right? Because they're getting you ready for, the actual work you will do in teams. I think for me, you definitely want to say right off the bat, be straightforward. Don't lie and say, you did all yourself. But if you say, okay, group size of, 4 people, roles included, lead head of design, head of presentation, head of documentation, if you all had established role titles, perhaps. But I think most important is highlighting your role in everything and saying, here are my responsibilities, right? Here, this was my area. we covered these areas. This is my focus. My area is here. You can definitely show the work that the whole group did, right? That's kind of the whole thing. But you, of course, since it's on your portfolio, especially when it comes down to that personal reflection of it, you definitely want to speak more so on your contributions. How did you, get through the challenges you faced? How did you work with your entire team to get through the challenges, right? Because a big part of what teams want to see is this person able to collaborate with others, right? Will they stay in their silo and just kind of work on it and just show it when it's done, or will they be open to feedback and collaboration throughout the way? And so signs of that are, how often the team met, what were the meetings consisting of? What team member contributed to what? Where did ideas come from? How did you all conduct research process, design process? How did you do feedback? So I think there's a lot to be said about demonstrating to them through your group project how you worked on it, how you work with others, and how the whole team kind of operated, because that will then speak to, okay, this team works a lot like kind of how our team works on, we have weekly check-ins and every day there's a status update, and you submit your designs for feedback and all sorts of things. So you kind of want to demonstrate in that project that you have done those sorts of things. And those are the sorts of things, obviously, you can do for that company.
Awesome. So I think we're going to shift gears a little bit from like applications into kind of thinking about your current role. Can you walk us through your interview process for your current role at IU?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned before, I was able to intern on this team um, the beginning of my second year in the HCI program. So interviewing with the team, part-time was amazing. Got to get to know my supervisor now, and the designers, the content editors, developers, all these folks who have been at IU from 4 to almost 20 years. So lots of experience, got to know a lot of different folks. And so I was familiar with the team, and one of the designers was leaving. And so that left an opening around the same time that I was applying for full-time work. So that worked out well, but still I had to go through a proper interview, which consisted of presenting a couple of projects I had worked on in my portfolio. That's actually from the internship interview as well, included portfolio project presentations, essentially. So I think it was like 2 projects in about 45 minutes. And, you wanted to leave time for questions, but you wanted to kind of take, them through your design process. What did you do? What was the, final product, that whole process there. So it included that. It included behavioral questions, some scenario-based questions, of course, before I think, getting the internship. And then once I was on the team, I think it was just a matter of one more pass at, the kind of work I had done on the internship, the kind of work I would continue doing as a full-time member, and, continuing the work I kind of started when I was an intern. So that was the process. And, come this May 25th, it'll be 2 years now on the team. That it's really flown by, and I'm really appreciative of my team. And I think, we've gotten to work on a lot of amazing projects. And, if anyone's ever interested in learning kind of what my team does and the greater UX teams at IU do, we have a website. It's ux.iu.edu. Pretty simple there. And it's our newer website, and it has articles, our team members on there, contact information if you ever want to reach out, some resources on there that our UX folks use. So yeah, again, really something we like to share and get out there. And we will also be at the statewide IT conference in end of April at the IMU. If anyone else will be there, we'll be there as well. But yeah, that was kind of the process that it took me from initial applicant to getting the internship to doing it to now full time.
Awesome. That was really insightful. Kind of going along with that idea, what kind of soft and technical skills do you think are most important for new ISE and HCID graduates as they enter the professional world?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like on the soft side, the behavioral side, we don't downplay the soft skills, of course, because those can always set you apart. I think they're very similar on both. I would speak to communication, friendliness, politeness, being welcome, being open in conversations, curiosity. People love to talk about their career journeys. So if you have a genuine interest and you're not just trying to get to the ask about how it can benefit you, I think always comes across as nice and appreciated. Gratitude, for sure. Anytime someone gives you a reply, let alone any, time in a conversation with them, that's an investment they've made in you, and to show that gratitude. But the kind of skills that all students learn in Y395, which is introducing oneself, practicing elevator pitch, asking good questions, listening. Those are I think the kinds of things that can get any student, across all the majors, let alone ISC and HCI, to feel more comfortable in interviews. I think we have great programs, so your technical backbone will always hopefully be there, and you've sharpened your skills and you've gotten everything in place. But those kind of other, being personable and being interested and taking initiative, I think is honestly, it's a hard thing to do as a student, because you think, well, who am I to reach out to this person? No, you're an IU student. Everyone was a student at one point, especially, the alum, who they get it. They were, in your shoes. They can, blink and remember being in your shoes. So don't downplay, oh, I'm just a student. No, you're a student, and you work and you learn, and they'd love to get to know you. They would. And so it's about getting past that hesitation and saying, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'd like to get to know them, and I'm sure they'd like to get to know me as well. And if it's just a chat to get to know this person and their career and what they've learned and the advice they have along the way, that is awesome. Anything else that comes after that, great. But just to develop connections that way. Um, Sorry, I got off track. Yeah, so those are the soft skills there. Yes, on kind of getting more comfortable with everything that comes along with the job search and that whole process. And then the technical, for an HCI student, I think now they all know, but essentially it's, design skills. What's your design tool of choice? I think any designer could kind of jump into any tool set and really pick it up and learn. I think that those pieces are always there. But your philosophy, what guides you? What are your convictions in design for conducting research? And have you done research? Do you know the principles of it? Do you know what you're looking for before you ask questions? Those sort of things I think you get from the curriculum and doing projects in the HCI program for sure, and taking the core courses from the amazing faculty. And then yeah, for ISC similarly, it's a lot, it's more development side of things. It's more, and the engineering, the programming, the coding. So staying sharp on your cracking the code challenges there, and practicing. I think it's just anytime if you're doing something, always oftentimes you're continuing to learn it, and as in addition to maintaining those skills.
Yeah, I mean, that is all super duper insightful. Do you have a favorite practice tool for practicing coding, or did you when you were in ISC?
Oh man, yeah, in an ISC, I mean, code code.org was like something I started doing like as a kid, but I think eventually there was lots of like I did purchase the book, like the Cracking the Code Challenge book. But yeah, after enough of those, you go, I think I'm gonna go into more. I'm gonna go more into designing these things. I don't need to know too much there, but I mean, it was the core education, so a lot of respect and love to developers for sure. But yeah, I think that those resources are still being updated today. But then for design, like designers, we use a tool called Figma for most of our designing, at least at IU, the IU design system. It's called Rivet, Rivet. It has its own website. That design system is, created and maintained on Figma. Um, but yeah, oftentimes, needing to do things in Photoshop, and other Adobe products. But yeah, like I said, I think whatever your tool out the gate is, it's kind of all the work you've done ahead of time that can lead to just jumping in and, contributing from there.
Awesome. And then thinking about jumping in, can you tell us what a typical day as a user experience designer at IU looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. On my team, I'm on a team called Enterprise Experience Design and Development. So what that means is, my team consists of myself, the other designers, content editors and writers. So the folks that actually get on the IU websites we all browse and work on what the words and the pictures and all the images on the page are. And then, the developers, of course, the front end developers, back end who maintain the databases. And so for myself and the user experience designers, a typical day is we get on, we send our daily check-in, which is what have we worked on yesterday? What are we working on today? Any blockers in the way of us getting our work done. And then from there, we go, okay, what are the active projects? What do we leave off on? We use a few different project management tools like Basecamp to kind of keep track of progress. And I just start kind of chipping away at tasks, polishing up any designs, sending them off for feedback. Right now we're actively working on a tool for money smarts at IU, the kind of the financial support group. And the tool is actually a cost calculator, which I know maybe some students have used before, but the cost calculator we're redesigning. And so these days it consists of, making adjustments, communicating with developers, making sure that they know what it is we mean when we do a certain design and how it's supposed to function, how they can actually implement it. And working with folks from accessibility as well to make sure that it's, passing all those checks. So basically working with a variety of teams, collaborating, designing, getting feedback, and then kind of iterating on whatever it is the project we're working on at that time. We're kind of like a consulting group too, in a way where sometimes projects will just kind of quickly come in and need a quick, check, a quick pass, quickly get to know what are some ways we can improve our online form, web app, application, what have you, website, and then we give our kind of review and recommendations as well.
Awesome. I guess alongside that, can you tell me about any of your favorite projects or most challenging projects you've been working on lately?
Yeah, definitely. One project that actually took us on site for conducting some research was the IU, it's Apply IU or the IU online application, which, any prospective student, but especially high school students will be filling out when they apply to IU, or one of the ways they can apply to IU. And so we were told by the team, like, hey, we've gone with this system for a little bit, but we've gotten some feedback, we've gotten some challenges from our users. We kind of want you all to take a look. And so one thing that we actually did was we went on site to a high school in Kokomo, Indiana, because these students were mostly applying to IU Kokomo. And we conducted user research with the students, with one of their administrators on site, moderating, but we were, recording the students, they all had iPads. And so they were either on the iPad version of the application and recording them and watching and kind of asking them questions like, I noticed you hesitated there. Was there something confusing about this? And encouraging them to talk aloud. Which is a big part of UX research, which is you see somebody interact with a website or your app or product, and you're actually seeing how one of your users is interacting with it, and then you can kind of ask questions like, I noticed you did this. Did this stick out to you? Does anything stick out to you here? Is this intuitive? Do you know where to go? So that was kind of fascinating to actually get to do that, post COVID, with actual high school students, many of which were very savvy with the tech, and they were just like zooming through it, like, okay, this person's got it. But of course, there's different varying abilities in high school. So there were certainly some students that needed a little more guidance and assistance. And so we were able to take that feedback and then go, okay, we need to add a few more, descriptive paragraphs or maybe a tooltip that explains what's going on here. And we wouldn't have really known that unless we kind of got that direct feedback. So feedback is critical to what we do, and we're always trying to get as much of it as possible.
Awesome. Kind of switching gears a little bit. I'm thinking just about your transition from undergrad to grad to being a pro staff member, all at the same school. Can you tell me about navigating those transitions and specifically thinking about you did it all in the same place? So what was that like?
Oh man, yes, yeah, all in the same place. That's always a nice reminder that haven't gotten out. No, it's been it's been a privilege, I'd say, more so than anything because, getting to be in my hometown, which just so happens to have an amazing institution that has all these amazing programs and opportunities. It was just kind of going from one opportunity to the next and kind of going all in and giving it everything I had at the time, 4 years undergrad, 2 years grad. I think the transition, obviously, it was more so seamless and, COVID was in the middle. So we were just kind of doing it from home. But I think every step of the way, it felt like IU all throughout, but it's just kind of getting to know how the program operates because every instructor, every program, every kind of system is different. And, I think I really enjoyed I mean, of course, there's your core courses as an undergrad, physics two and calc two and differential equations were necessarily the highlight, but we got through and, to the master's program, which it's now great to see the current HCI students, they come see each other in the design studio in Miles Brand. They go to events together. They're very much active in the community, which is huge. For half of my time, we were at home, so we didn't necessarily get to have that, but we did our best to establish the community. And I think IU and certainly Luddy has an amazing community and alumni network that certainly helped me when I was a student. And now, we still stay in touch. And so it's all about, getting to know the community. I think going all in on it, being open, attending events. There's always events going on in Luddy and so I think every step of the way trying to just seize the most of these amazing opportunities, I think would be the overall lesson I was trying to get to.
Nope, that was a beautiful wrapped up lesson there. I love that. So thinking about like always moving on to the next opportunity, what kind of future steps do you see for yourself in this role, after this role? Like, what does the future hold for Sohile?
Well, some say, what's your 5 year plan? I'm thinking of a 5 months, 10 month plan. But for me, I enjoy the work I do. I think getting to contribute to the experiences of IU students, faculty, and staff has been pretty, fulfilling for me. Still in Bloomington, love this town. I'm a little biased, but always fun things going on and great sports teams to root for. But for me, I want to continue to grow as a designer. I want to continue to grow as a full-time employee here at IU, and kind of continue to educate the next generation, continue to, guide our interns, share as much as I can. But yeah, continue to learn and grow myself every step of the way and, tell the occasional joke every so often. Comedy Attic every Thursday. A little plug. But yeah.
So thinking about that, and I'm happy to shameless plug you. Tonight he will be hosting at the Comedy Attic, and I guess you'll be doing that every Thursday night now. So check Sohile out at the Comedy Attic. So how do you balance your professional role and your comedy interest? And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Most Thursdays, by the way, most Thursdays we do alternate, so you don't have to deal with me the whole time. But I'd say, it's funny being in user experience. There was a nice article written, but kind of doing comedy, like telling jokes on stage to strangers, you're getting user feedback instantly. So, if you ever want to get a direct feel of what that's like, go to any comedy show and you will see work feedback, that loop. And it's kind of funny to, work in UX and also be able to do that. But yeah, it's a balancing act, right? Everyone has their hobbies, their passions, what excites them outside of their work. I'm lucky to have a job that I enjoy, look forward to going to with people I enjoy working with who support me as well and whom I support. And so I think you find, what works best for you in your weekly routine. You work till what time? You want to get a workout in, you need to, attend to your responsibilities. And if you have time, maybe pursue that, take an hour or so, however much time you have to pursue that thing that maybe you always wanted to do and just maybe never got around to doing it. I encourage anyone, no matter how tired you are, last night I was, after work tired, wasn't feeling it, but still drove to Indianapolis, did two open mics, and so And I'm fortunate and privileged to be able to do that, in current state. So I guess just my encouragement to say, it's a balance, and I hope everyone can find their balance as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I'm gonna delve into one more question, but before I do that, just students, if you have any questions you'd like to throw into the chat, um, I'm about to turn Sohile over to you for the last 15 minutes, so whatever you got. He's great at improv, so he's super excited to improv on those answers. But we'll go ahead and we'll get into my last question here. So many of our students, as we've talked about, are facing the struggles of the current job market. Can you discuss some strategies students can utilize to stand out in such like an oversaturated job market?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that, even the folks that have been in their careers for so long and have been laid off, unfortunately, are now having to do again. And I think the students today, in a way, come at it from a better angle, which is you're just trying to learn. You're just trying to make connections and learn. And so, maybe you don't have to go to the top person at Microsoft or Apple, that's getting hit by hundreds of people on a daily basis. Maybe you think about, like we said earlier, think globally, act locally, think locally. And seriously, like think of every class you've ever taken, every instructor you've ever enjoyed. At the end of the semester, the instructor goes, well, stay in touch. Did you stay in touch? Did you check in with them? Did you, hey, how are things? I loved your class. How are things? Let's get a coffee. You never know. They've taught batches and batches of students, and they may know a student somewhere that is not on LinkedIn. Maybe they're not active, but they're like, oh, I'm good friends with them. I talk to them every month. I would love to connect you with them. And that came from a connection you made with maybe your professor. So I guess my advice would be explore different avenues as well, right? Everyone's and continue to do the things you do online, of course, but find that interesting angle, find that professor that that student you had a class with, maybe career services department. Of course, they're amazing. They know all the students that are out there, and are constantly keeping up with the database and stuff. So think of the other resources at your disposal. You don't have to go at it alone. Is kind of the lesson there, and family, friends, don't be afraid to pull on those as well. And I think when it comes down to it, your asks, your messages, and getting to know people, just genuine, brief, but genuine curiosity, gratitude. And then repeat. Just repeat, and always make sure you're when you copy and paste your messages, you always put the right name to the person. I learned that the hard way. He was very nice, but I accidentally called him Hannah, and but he was very nice about it. And he's like, just make sure you check that. So there's another reminder: always check those copy pastes, but they shouldn't be copy pastes, right? Make them individual. But those are the kind of things. I know it is daunting. It is hard, but every day is a new day. I know a lot of cliches you hear, but we say them for a reason. Every day is a new opportunity, right? You wake up early, you can get to it, you have your to-do lists, your responsibilities, but you have to have hope. You have to continue to try, put yourself out there. It's hard, uh, but every step of the way, you'll face your challenges. But like we always say, it just takes one. It just takes one to open up a door, a world of opportunity for you. Just like you were able to get here to IU. Think about where you are compared to where you were at one point. You were probably just hoping to get into IU, just hoping to get here and study here, and now you excelled, and now you're on the other end of it almost. So, just kind of appreciate all that too. That there's someone out there who would love to talk to you about what you're doing and have done. So don't forget that as well. And but I think if persistence and all those things, but again, find those interesting nook and cranny connections that you may not have thought of. So just kind of, you never know.
Okay, a question came in for you, Sohile. So thinking about how you're currently a UX designer for a university, how does that differ from working like in the industry, and what made you choose an academic job versus more of an industry-based job?
The availability. No, I think I can't speak to, designing for, I guess more of a corporation, maybe they're referring to, or, a different kind of business model. But Indiana University is a business, and their business model is, education, students, higher education. And I think the variety could be in the kinds of, because we work for UITS, but we kind of help maintain all of Indiana University. And it's large. It's not just Bloomington, Indianapolis, Kokomo, Columbus, Southeast, Northwest. So there's many campuses. So it's kind of like working for a big company. It is working for a big company. IU is huge. And so, but what makes it small is the units we get to work with, right? I mentioned Money Smarts, IU Apply, IU Online, the different sectors, different schools that will come into our group and say, hey, we don't have any UX people. We know you all do the UX. Can you help us with that? So in a way, it's kind of like consulting, I would compare to, where you get these different clients coming in, you get the expectations from them, but there's also the projects we just maintain, year round anyway. And those are easier because we know those, constantly. But again, I can't speak to, directly industry, but from what I know from my friends in industries and bigger, companies and stuff out there, it's at the end of the day, it's what projects they're assigned to. And sometimes those projects change, but sometimes they don't. It's the same product or service. So think about that as well when you're applying for what you want to find, right? Do you want to have that variety? Do you want to work on all sorts of different products and services across all sorts of sectors? Then maybe you want to do something in consulting, or do you want to really go deep in on an individual product or service? Then maybe you want to go directly onto that team that works on it. So those are kind of things to remind yourself. And here at IU, we kind of have a little bit of both, I'd say. Hope that answered that for that person. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, definitely. So that was like our star question for the day. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to offer up to our audience and to aspiring UX designers out there?
Well, I again appreciate the time and the opportunity to share my thoughts. I hope I didn't just ramble on and not make any sense, but I think, if you just think back to, everyone's trying to, get to the next thing, but if you just take one moment to, appreciate where you're at, how far you've come, that you hopefully are the person that, you 2, 4, 5 years ago wanted to be. But I guess just being open, I think that's kind of that's something I try to remind myself. Be open, stay curious as best as you can. Um, don't lose hope. Again, that whole thing of every day you have as much time as you have to get the most out of it, and I encourage you do. And comparison is the theft of joy, right? They say, but it's hard to do in this world to completely, avoid that. But want a little bit of what you have already. You've done a lot, you've achieved a lot, and you will continue to achieve a lot. And that should encourage you. I only want to try and encourage other people, because the world will be the world, the market will be the market. Um, and what you want to do in the world is valuable. And it just takes one opportunity to know that value, see it, and choose you to be to insert that value into their world as well. So, all these, we could motivational soundtrack insert here, but I will always err on that side because I've been very fortunate, and I think I know a lot of people that have persevered and gotten to where they want to be. It's not easy, but you can do it.
Well, thank you, Sohile. That was definitely a hopeful and gratitude-filled message, and we are hopeful that you will come back and speak with us again, and grateful for you taking the time to do so today. Students, thank you so much for taking your time. Again, Ashlyn and Peter, thank you for representing development and that lifelong Luddy kind of mindset here. We appreciate Sohile again, all of that time and all of your expertise. And we hope everybody enjoys and stays safe.